Hey everyone, I wanted to do a quick run through on how to do the data extraction for the articles for the MTBI meta-analysis. So this will be going through the research studies and actually taking the data from the tables and inputting it into this format so that it can be the effect sizes can be calculated and aggregated with all the other supplemental information from the studies. So first things first, what you want to do is you want to open up the meta-analysis workflow and assignments. That is located in the share drive under Psych Health Research, TBI meta-analysis. It's going to be on the front page, so meta-analysis workflow and assignment. What you're going to do is look to find which study needs to have the data extracted. So I've already done 3 of them here, and we're actually going to look at these in this video. If you were coming in on your own, what you would do is you'd want to look at the next one on the list and start extracting that data. So for example, it would be 18-2016, and so you would want to go through and extract that data, save it, or go through and double code the ones that I've already done, and then so on and so forth. So for the purposes of this video, we're going to look at the ones that I've already taken care of just for demonstration purposes. So we're actually going to start with 7-2010, since that's a little bit of a simpler article. So we'll go back into the file, we'll look at the dissertation articles, and we're going to find 7-2010. So the article will be, you'll scroll down the article until you find a table that is highlighted. So this table is the one that's going to be highlighted. This is the type of data that you're going to have to pull out. It's going to have written in there by somebody the type of research design that it is. So this in case is an independent groups post-test only. And that means that different groups of people who had no bearing of one another. So for example, in this case, this is folks with concussion versus people who came into the emergency department because they had some type of an orthopedic injury like a broken leg. So those are 2 independent groups, and we have no testing before their injury. We only have testing immediately after their injury and then following up. So that's why this is a post-test only. So we have a number of different tests and data that we need to pull out and input into our Excel file. So we're going to take a quick look at this first just to see what we're kind of working with. So we have a MTBI group, so with 3 different time points. So baseline, although their baseline is a little bit of a misnomer. In this case, when I read the article, it says that it's it occurred at the time of injury, so this is within 24 hours. They call this baseline, which isn't a true baseline. That's okay. This would be time 1, time 2, time 3. Then we have control group, time 1, time 2, time 3. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different data points that we need to enter this data. So I will go into back to TBI meta-analysis. I'm going to go into coding tools and extractions, and I'm going to open up the dissertation data extraction sheet. And this is what it looks like. You have 2 different sheets down here based on the different types of study designs. So as I mentioned earlier, flip over here, this indicates that it's an independent groups post-test only, so I'll use this sheet versus this sheet here. What I'm going to do is I am going to input the different names of the tests over test name. So for example, we have PCSQ, so I'll type in PCSQ. The next one is SDMT, and then TMTB. Over here is where I'm going to put in the actual data. So the mean for the control group is actually going to be over here. So in this case, it might be a little bit easier to start with the MTBI groups just because I like to read left to right. So for the control group, we have for the PCSQ a mean score of 5.14. So MTBI for the PCSQ, 5.14. The standard deviation is 9.68. So I'll put 9.68. The N, or the sample size, is 28 in this case. So I'll put 28. To make my life easier, I'm just going to copy and paste that here so I don't have to type that out each time. Similarly, I'll come over here. SDMT is negative 0.02, so negative 0.02 with a standard deviation of 1.0, so 1.00. For over here with the control group, we'd come over here and see for PCSQ, baseline 1.42, so 1.42 with a standard deviation of 1.89, 1.89, and the sample size in this case is 45, so 45. Notice that this is going to automatically calculate an effect size for us. For the intents and purposes of the data extraction, that's not too important, but if this is something you're interested in learning a little bit more about, it'll help increase your familiarity with it. I'm going to skip around a little bit, so I apologize if it's a little bit confusing. But I want to show you that there are multiple time points. So for this is time point 1, this is time point 2. I'm going to tab over to time point 2, and then I would do the same process all over again. So in this case, the baseline for the MTBI group, baseline, or the time point 2 for the MTBI group, PCSQ is 4.09, 4.09. Put that in the wrong place, so let me put that over here. 4.09, standard deviation is 7.71, and the sample size is 22. Whereas with the controls, so control group, time point 2, PCSQ is 1.50, 1.50, standard deviation is 3.52, and the sample size is 29. For illustrative purposes, I've already completed this one, so let me show you what it looks like when it's finished. So here we have time point 1, all of this data is filled in for the control group and the MTBI, which looks different than the actual the table in the study, and that's okay. It probably won't always look just like we have in the Excel file. So you're going to have to be either a little bit creative or kind of think outside of the box and make sure that you're inputting the correct information in the right place. The flow or the way in which you input the data, totally up to you. So if you want to copy and paste things, so for example, put 28 for the sample size here, copy and paste that all the way down, that's up to you. If you want to start with just the control groups for each time point, then go to the MTBIs, up to you, as long as the data that you're putting in is accurate. And it's really important that we do this accurately, because if we realize that there's a mistake down the road when we get to the data analysis stage, it's just going to create a whole lot of problems. So it's better to be vigilant about this and to make sure we're doing this correctly, which is why we're having it double scored in the first place. So this is 7-2010, and again, just like we have here, we have 1, 2, 3 time points for control group of the MTBI group. We have 1, 2, 3 time points here. We're going to make sure that we put exactly the names in the test name. Don't worry about the checkbox. Don't worry about the actual effect size calculations unless you want to learn more about that. I can walk you through that. Once you input all the data, you're going to want to save it. So you go to File, Save a Copy. Where we want to save it is on the Helsley shared drive. I have my OneDrive synced to my computer, which is why I can access it directly from here rather than uploading it each time. So go to TBI meta-analysis, data entry, RA data extractions, and we'll want to save it as the code name of the article, dash initial extraction, dash, and then your initials, so the person who initially coded it. Now this is a pretty simple and straightforward example where there's only one group, one MTBI group, and one control group. Sometimes you can have multiple, this is taking a while, sorry about that. Sometimes you can have multiple control